Two microphone.
Test.
Ookie ookie ah la la.
And on that note, ookie ookie ah la la, and welcome back to another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. Weird that this year, more than others, we seem to be celebrating a milestone every single episode. It's almost like these guys are either just cheapening the process because all of you coaches are just absolute compilers who are sticking around way, way, way too long, or all of you are legendary coaches pulling into Milestone Station at the same time. This week, it's Coach Mitchell. I always want to say it's Danny Charles Mitchell. It is not. It's his father, but it was
Mike Mitchell.
But I was trying to explain to the people, Danny was his dad's boss for a little while too, so it's a weird hierarchy. But Mike Mitchell, 600 career wins. He's done it with the Christian Patriots. He's done it with the long ball and no pitching for the last 5 to 10 years. So always a tip of the cap for any milestone, but especially when you refer to your pitching staff as the red shirt brigade from Star Trek, a.k.a. the ones that are always getting killed off every episode because you just have no pitching and you're still winning like that. Congrats, Coach.
Yeah, fifth to reach 600 in the county, so that's a huge deal, ever.
That's impressive.
And 36th in the state to ever get to 600.
Wow.
And I guess that makes more sense why Danny had to flee to go to college coaching. He just had to get out of the shadow of his dad because, I guess Danny could have wound up with 600 wins if he stayed at Bishop's football eventually.
You have to play a lot of seasons.
Let's think about how many more seasons that is to get to 700 wins.
For which one? For the football version or for the baseball version?
Baseball version alone. It's not a short amount of time. I think this is a long time.
De La Salle didn't lose for
coaching.
like 13 years and it only got to whatever
I know,
number.
Right? It's unreal. That's crazy.
Well,
we're witnessing legendary status here.
Well, a couple of really, Gallegos is at 400, Mitchell's at 600.
James Davis at 500.
Davis is at 500.
Machado is at 592.
Oh, so Machado's going to hit 600 this year?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, see, they're all just a bunch of lazy compilers.
And we got Manny Hermosillo at 768, and he's got the rest of the season to get whatever because he said he's retiring.
So they need to win more games than they have available.
They need to win 47 games.
Playing some national postseason tournaments.
Okay, well, so we're going to put two things on the poll. At SD Prep Insider on Twitter and Instagram is where you can find all of our polls. And coaches, we apologize. We don't mean to lessen your accomplishments. We love all of you guys, like truly and wholly. We have fun here. But first one we're going to go on the poll is, do you think Danny Charles Mitchell could have wound up with 600 wins at Bishop's football eventually? And should Manny Hermosillo try to schedule 46 more games for this year's Montgomery team?
But then when he gets to it, he cancels the rest of them.
You're saying,
he only needs 32.
Yeah. So we'll put
just needs to make it.
The third question is, do you trust Christian's math?
Hard stop at 800 there.
Oh, yeah. Like seventh inning, just Rudy him. Yeah. just carry Hermosillo off. The other two guys in here on the left is Bodie DeSilva with Scorebook Live. He is the biggest thing in national high school baseball. Like, that is the head reporter at the biggest company talking high school baseball, and he's kind enough to join us here.
Until our number one keeps losing each week. So that's the curse. IMG went down this week.
And he's got a sloth fielding a ground ball on his sweater.
Slow rolling.
This is like the most coolest shirt I've ever seen. Sweatshirt, excuse me.
It's cool as anything.
That thing is awesome.
And that's coming from a guy, David Ring, who showed up last week with personal branded apparel.
Yes.
DR baseball jersey.
Yes. And just a LFG in general this week, guys. I'm just pumped for the podcast this week. Every week it's how I'm feeling. That's what I wear.
Okay.
Bodie just goes swag. I go how I'm feeling.
Okay. So
This is how I'm feeling this week.
So you weren't feeling apologetic towards Rancho Bernardo? You didn't want to wear some sympathy blue for me? Which, by the way...
Don't worry, I got them.
Can I just address something? Parents, if you are going to DM us saying, I heard from somebody that you were... Just watch the show, and two things will become evidently clear. Yes, we all are vaguely similarly looking white guys, but it's not right to merge our opinions. I say one thing, Dave says another thing, Bodie says another thing. Second thing... So much of this show is said tongue-in-cheekly because if we all just came in here and did chalk every week of saying best 5 teams are going to win all the best games, that would be a boring show and nobody would watch it. So we got to just sprinkle in a little spice of life in there every now and then. Okay, back to the regularly scheduled programming. We've got top tens, game balls, Dave's dingers, a whole lot of fun at the end of the show when Bodie's going to reenact his sloth fielding a ground ball. I'm kidding. But let's start with this week's top 10. Bodie from Scorebook Live has his start of the week top 10. Dave has his rebuttal top 10.
Yeah, it's only changed a little bit as usual. Coming into the week, Torrey Pines at number 1, 4-0 in the Lions tournament last week. Very impressive. Only gave up 1 run across the four games. Rancho Bernardo at number 2. They were also the other team to go 4-0 in the top division of Lions. Both teams have also had losses this week, so maybe we'll see if that changes. Cathedral Catholic, their one win this week was 1-0 over Scripps Ranch. So it's kind of been the theme of the week, these low-scoring, really tight games. Patrick Henry at number 4. Granite Hills at number 5. Saints at number 6, La Costa 7, Carlsbad 8, Sage Creek 9, and Santa Fe Christian getting back in there at number 10.
I shook mine up this week. I mean, I think you're on to something, Bodie, with these teams with 13 wins. Like, I put Patrick Henry at number 1 this week just because I think they deserve the recognition. They've got 13 wins. I've got Cathedral 2, Torrey 3, Saints 4, LCC dropped down to 5. They've had a couple tough losses. Granite Hills, Carlsbad, San Marcos, RB, Sage Creek, pretty similar. I do think that some of these teams, like you said, are going to flip-flop all season, but in my opinion, the teams that have 13 wins at this point, you got to give some credit to. That's not easy to do, and that's why LCC kind of dropped for me this week. They're up to 4 losses. Haven't played as many games, but
yeah, those teams playing in the Boris had to shift things around, so they
Right.
played less now. They'll have to make it up at the end, which there's something to be said. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe the last week of the year you'd only want 1 game, so you can use a couple pitchers, get everyone the rotation set. But
you see LCC's got a big game against Jay Serra today, right?
correct, yep.
That just, I mean, that's a huge game for them. Momentum carries them into the season with a big win there. So, yeah, man, I shook it up this week for sure. I definitely wanted to see Patrick Henry win some more games, and they're showing me that they're a number 1 capable team in the county for sure.
And that league's going to be fun as well. The Western is loaded. Christians in that Point Loma, Madison, and then obviously you have Patrick Henry, Cathedral, and Saints. So going to be a really, really lot of tough
Point Loma
games.
is mine, notable for sure. They're right on the edge, along with like Bonita Vista. They're 9-4 also. I'll talk about them and some game ball stuff.
And we're starting or week out from league. Like by the next time we have a podcast.
Yeah,
basically
some of them are in league this week. I think almost everyone will be in by the end of next week, depending if you have 5 or 6 teams in your league. So,
Dave mentioned game balls. We will get to game balls in just a bit, but Dave's Dingers is the segment that the people need.
LFG with that one. Yeah, there's been a lot of dingers, but I think a lot of the guys at the top of the pack are separating themselves. And so you're going to see this year a little more of like a group that has, 5-10 dingers, and then everyone kind of, a lot of lower number guys, which I'm going to give love to those guys right now because those guys having 3 home runs at this point in the season, that's huge.
There's a lot with 0, so 3.
Exactly. So Noah Batanko at Eastlake, he's got 3 dingers. Kelly Luck at Mount Carmel. I hope I pronounced that right. This guy's got a bright future. He absolutely rakes. He's got 3 bombs so far, just like Batanko. Harry Shim over at Bonita Vista hit his first home run of the year and went off the scoreboard. Those are some of my favorite home runs, the ones that like make a noise after you hit it.
The hit it,
it's like
hit
silent.
It here sign. Maybe you should get something out of that.
And then bong. Those are my favorite. His leadership, his senior leadership has been a big reason why Bonita Vista is off to that 9-1 start, like I mentioned. Ty Van also hit a walk-off home run. The vibes for that walk-off were insane. I don't know if you saw it. I'll have to post it.
We'll put that on the poll at SC Prep Insiders. Ty Van from Bonita Vista have immaculate vibes.
Ty Van, vibing out. I mean, he's a very toolsy hitter. And I'm going to give a lot of love to Bonita Vista today because of some of the guys that have a ton of tools on that team. He's like 6 feet. He runs. He can hit with power. Very D1 type body. So congrats to you guys on the fantastic start to the season. Anthony Tompkins, he's over at Saints. He's got 3 taters. And Will Sanford at Point Loma, Big reason why they're right on the fringe of my top 10. He's got 2 jacks, or 2 jimmies, 2 pull-side jimmies, we call them, right? So far, so good, man. Everyone's looking pretty solid in that top 15.
That's all that is the Todos jimmies.
That's all the Jimmy
That's all
jacks.
the Jimmy's jacks from this week's.
Yes, sir.
If only there was a Jimmy John's.
I hear a baby, by the way.
The intern number 2 is currently going through it.
That's the first time we've ever had a podcast where we've heard your baby talk.
Yeah. Thankfully, the mics can't pick it up because it is a couple rooms away. But just know that
she's getting ready.
The crying is no longer metaphorical from people in our DMs. It's now people. There's a human live reacting to how bad our podcast is in the background. Bodie DeSilva from Scorebook Live. Your game balls.
Yeah, so I'll start with Levi Hamm. He does lead the county in home runs with 7, and 6 of those are in a 3-game span. So he's 3 multi-home run games, I should say, so far, including one last week in their win over
He's going full ham
Del Norte.
on the ball.
And look, we know there's some parks that are easier. You still got to do it. There's a reason why not everyone is doing it that way. He's an excellent hitter from the left side there. Darren Lopez from El Camino had that really hot start with the power early on. He's now up to a 12-game hitting streak, so continuing that. Alex Messman from Patrick Henry stole 4 bases last week, now has 17 on the season, so kind of providing that value in another way. I believe he's atop their lineup when I've seen them play. Nathaniel Wadelski from Mira Mesa had 5 hits in their 2-game span last week, 2 doubles, a triple, drove in 6 runs against Verdugo Hills and San Ysidro. And then Will Sanford, got to give it up to him in his start against Poway, struck out 13 in 7 innings. So future Oregon Duck doing it both ways.
I was going to say, notice how Will Sanford gets both a shout-out on the dingers side and on the pitching side. Yeah. It's almost like Pac-12 baseball. Oh, man, I get sad every time I say that because Pac-12 is about to fall apart. But it's almost like Pac-12 baseball players are actual dogs.
That should be inspiring to
Oregon-Indiana rivalry will be great.
If you want Bodie and me to talk about you in the same podcast, you just got to pitch and hit. That's all.
There you. That's it. All you
just tell your coach.
All you have to be is a future pro 6-tool player. But you know, on the like, it is hard sometimes to try and explain to people. That would be the equivalent of like, if Roddy Robinson was both the starting middle linebacker and the starting running back and was kicking field goals and was returning punt. Like,
it's insane.
Yeah, it's insanity. Dave, you got other game balls this week?
Of course. I got to give some love to the batting average kings of the county right now. Fernando Jeriquai, he's over at Morse. He's hitting .543, 25 hits and 46 at-bats. I mean, that's insane at this point. Evan Silber at Mission Bay. He's got a .538 average. And then Jamie Onitis at La Jolla Country Day. He's hitting .524. I mean, 21 hits. That's unreal. Or excuse me, 21 at-bats, 11 hits. I mean, that you're hitting 500 to start the year. It's got to be a good feeling, man. So congrats to you guys on that fantastic batting average start, the batting average kings to start the season. And listen, I know I picked Cathedral last week to win the Lions, but I got to give love to RB. They're the Open Division champs. Did you guys realize it's the 74th Lions tournament?
Oh, you're saying the Open Division Lions. Okay,
which is different now because you can't play the 5 games. So it's,
yeah.
Technically, there's 2, but yeah, no.
Technically,
no. This Lions, the way it's been running for so long, with every year except for the 1 year when we had our spring season stopped in 2020.
74
Incredible.
years, right? Kind of crazy.
That's how long Danny Mitchell would need to stick around to get 600 wins at Bishops.
Seriously, that's about how long these guys have been coaching for, right? Their entire lineup balled out that week. The tournament MVP, obviously, Tyler Arnold. He closed out the final 2 innings. This guy tops out at like 88 miles per hour.
There's a two-way guy, too.
He also hit 2 doubles that game. I mean, you're going to see massive amounts of home runs from this guy this year. Big reason why, Bodie, you put RB in your number 2 slot.
Yep.
And I had neglected to have them in my top 10 first couple of weeks, but that definitely changed. This week, Ishmael Castanon. I think this is one of our biggest, or in my opinion, the biggest hidden gem in San Diego as far as pitching goes. Not very talked about. He's a right-handed pitcher at Bonita Vista. This guy's 6'3", about 210 pounds. He's a 2024, so he's a senior this year. Hasn't got a lot of interest yet, and he's still looking for a squad. He's topped out at 94 this year. He sits about 92. During the season, he's got 2 wins with a 1.77 and 40 Ks so far this year. He also has 10 hits, 2 bombs on the year. I think this episode was dedicated to all you future Shoheis out there. I mean,
You're saying that there's kids that are going to be compulsive gamblers?
Future two-ways. Sorry. Set me up for that one. Future two-ways. That sure slipped under the rug quickly. We haven't heard a lot about that lately, right?
That also sets up for next list I'm working on is top unsigned seniors. So you have those names.
I thought you were going to say top fall guys in gambling schemes.
Get them sent
That's
over. I hope I don't miss any. But
yeah, you have a big high school year. And you're on the fringe. I mean, we've seen it in the past. There's been guys that have had huge high school years and got drafted in the first round.
Exactly what I was just going to say.
It's like
you can get drafted despite not being committed at this point. Go put it out there.
So
you're in an area where the scouts are. They will find you if you go perform.
I think we've also seen with baseball specifically the getting to the draft. If you don't get drafted in high school, is still if you go to a JUCO, if you go to an NAIA, if you're going anywhere from the biggest D1 down to a small school in rural Montana, all you got to do is perform ultimately, and teams will in greater numbers than in other sport. No one's going to necessarily go from the NBA draft out of Northern Arizona. Or something like that. The rare football one where you're like, oh, he came out of Coastal Carolina, or was North Dakota was Josh Allen or something like that. But in baseball, if you are throwing if you do a Steven Strasburg and you go from being a mid 80s pudgy kid at West Hills to throwing 102 at San Diego State just because you grew up and you got teams will find you, and it is absolutely just expanding because of the international draft. Teams no longer on the major league side think of it as this construct of we only dip into certain pools.
Well, in the case I was going to say, the name Jacob Widener, I remember seeing him pitch at San Marcos, kind of forgotten, goes over to Palomar, then goes to Oral Roberts, and then last year becomes a 9th-round pick, and you watch him pitch, and you're like, this guy looks just like Randy Johnson because he's about 6'8", 240, from the left side, and suddenly, you develop, you go to junior college, you find a school in Oklahoma that you can go perform on the level, and they'll find you wherever they are.
You just need somewhere to be on the mound if you're a pitcher, and if you're a hitter, you just need somewhere to get plenty of at-bats, and that's what I actually kind of love about the high school baseball kids that we have coming out of here. I mean, this is not one of, I love all of the things about our high school baseball kids, but you do certainly see a culture of, in some of the other sports, like football, it's just the arbitrary, oh, I'm going to Louisville.
Yeah.
It's but is that really a good opportunity for you? Or is that just a brand name where you feel self-validated? And you see a lot of baseball kids that are I'm going to Sharpsburg State College on the moon. And you're okay, that doesn't necessarily sound like a brand name, but you're the kid picked it because it's where he's going to go to play third base from his freshman year. And you're 5 years later, he's a 10th round draft pick by the Giants. And you're okay. That totally makes sense now.
Go where you are in the field, you're in the lineup card, whatever it. Ali Camarillo from Otay Ranch a couple years ago goes to Cal State Northridge, has 2 excellent years, is a huge name in the portal, and now he's starting shortstop at Texas A&M. Go where you can play, show off your talents, and they will find you.
For Jacob Christian this year too, he's a Point Loma Nazarene guy.
Over to USD. So
went over to USD. He's got 8 home runs now. So happy for the kid, man. He's such a good kid. I think that was a huge decision for him. To second what Christian said, and as far as taking risks in your career, it's one of the things I suggest to my guys all the time. You could either play it safe or you can take risks. And there's risks in your development, risks going to a small school where you could develop more and become the man you want to be. There's risks all across the board. And I think that's, kind of what happened with Jacob. It's with Jacob Christian. He took a risk. He's transferred out of Point Loma, and I think it's going to help him in his draft this year. And suggest you guys, man, out there, if you really want to play at the next level, just don't play it safe, man. Take the risk you need to take, and
in the
keep
days
working for it.
In the days of the portal and the free transfers, like, you just have to show what you can be, whatever level that is.
Right.
Whether that next step is to a bigger school or to the draft, so be it. You just got you don't want to be at a place where it's too big for you and you can't find yourself on the field at all. That's the thing you can't do.
I can tell you guys that sitting on the bench at a Division I school accomplishes nothing in terms of making you a better baseball player. As a indistinguishable body for a couple of years that I was, it means nothing. Like, I contributed nothing to the team. I did nothing for the team other than raising the GPA and not being. I know they tell walk-ons to just shut the hell up and sit at the end of the bench just because we legally need to have a full roster. Please don't get arrested or raise the team GPA. Basically, the most that I contributed as a Division I bench warmer was I got really good at repairing the mound post bullpens.
There you go.
Like, I could fix a mound in my.
You got duties.
Well, and now I've got duties to clean up, too.
You've got multiple duties now.
Multiple duties a night. That one goes out to all the parents out there. Anything else on the game ball front, guys, or we got one last closeout segment, which I want to ask, what is the team that at this point, we always like to talk about, once we hit that turning point going into league, who is the biggest surprise? And I ask that in a very open-ended way. Like, this is not a show where we analyze only the top 10 teams or only the bottom. Like, find it however you want to define it. Who is your biggest surprise so far this season? Bodie or Dave, are you either of you guys ready for that? Do you want me to go first?
In a negative way or a positive way?
Positive's always slightly better and better received by the fan base, but it can be in either direction. I think that it can be also just surprisingly that they're neutral still, that there's a team that's only at 500 or something like that. Bodie, you got anything?
I think I would say probably La Costa Canyon and Carlsbad. And there have been weeks this year where they've been 1-2. I believe I had them 1-2 to start the year. But they're also scheduling tough. Carlsbad, as it sits right now, I don't know if the result from their game this morning, but I believe they're a game under 500. La Costa sitting at 5-4-1. And those guys still have 15, well, Carlsbad one less, but 15 and 14 league games left to play against the likes of Rancho Bernardo and Torrey Pines and Del Norte and San Marcos, where, like, the winner of that league, if you can get to 11 wins, like, you did something right there. So, and the way with the playoffs working with the CIF power rankings, like, it's a little different what that chart is. Like, you got to rack up as many of those 48 and 50-point victories as you can. So I think for one of them, the biggest surprise would be I just at this point don't see them both being kind of home seeded throughout the playoffs. Like, I just see no way that they're both top 4 seeds, and I would have been surprised had you told me that before the season. Doesn't mean you can't win. We've seen 8 seeds make it to the championship and all
12
that.
Seeds win them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the big time. Dave, you ready?
The team that I think hasn't performed up to their par is Eastlake. They've lost a few games that they probably shouldn't have, so that's put them at 5 losses. But, I mean, I just think they should probably have won a few more games. But let's be honest.
They'll put it together.
They're at 10 wins.
Yeah.
Okay, so just at this point, they're probably the team that I would say, hey, they could be in a little bit better spot. And in my opinion, the biggest, upside and the biggest, moving forward, surprising teams. I think Maranatha is going to surprise teams at 11-3 this year. They've got a new coach in Matt Jervis. Such a good guy. I've known Matt forever. I
remember watching Matt at Rancho Bernardo.
Right. If I had one coach that I'd want to play for now as a player in San Diego, it'd be Matt. So, along with some of those other guys that I have a lot of respect for, some of the older guys, but I would relate to a guy like Jervis. I think he's got his team really rolling.
He's that new wave of people. That if you project out that he sticks with high school coaching, he could be in the several hundreds of wins.
And he's just an impactful person in terms of, like, just a good dude. He makes everyone around him better. All the players love him from what I hear. And Maranatha 11-3.
Well, and that Division II, I think coming in, I wasn't sure how good it was going to be. You look at the top 5 seeds right now: Coronado, Point Loma, Santa Fe Christian, Maranatha, Bonita Vista. Like, that's a loaded top 5. That'll be a lot of fun. So
we talked about a couple of those teams.
And you actually hit
right?
on one of the teams that I was going to list as my surprise, or what, however you want to. I forget even what the question was that I asked. But Coronado, is one of my pleasant surprises.
And they got a ton of pitching, and
they be whooping that ass this year. And in
10-5,
but
that was after.
But you look at some of their
after an 0-3 start.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Slow start, and then all of their wins are coming late. So Coronado has been doing it on the road and at home in various different ways, winning with the big fly, winning with pitching. They are one of my surprises. My second surprise, or pleasant surprise, or however we really want to, however this needs to be heard by you, the fan, that it's not an insult. But Saints, they are waxing teams, and I was confident that Saints was going to be good this year. But when
Saints are a number 1 team,
when you
in
have
my opinion,
they're new coach this year, yes. No,
not to my knowledge.
Okay. No, same guy,
same coach this year. But
he's a dog. He's an absolute dude.
Craig DeLuz.
Yes. Okay. Football with Saints. Sorry, that's the new coach. Minimal sleep. But the way that they are putting up double-digit shutout dubs. Like, usually when you see a team that's that loaded, there's 1 of 2 wins. Like, they've had guys that are like the MJ Sweeney, they'll hit the freaking cover off the ball, and they can give up 6 runs and still win a game. But when you're winning 12-0, like, that to me is like, ooh, you've got everything figured out.
And they were winning without a few guys too.
So that's what I'm saying. It compounds that every single Saints win.
This will validate us.
You check the box score, and you're like, woof,
totally.
Like, oh my gosh. And then the last one for me that's kind of a pleasant surprise is El Camino. I know that they're not necessarily running away with it, but El Camino seems to have it figured out. When Zane Nordquist is on the mound, they have enough power that it gives me Porter Robin and Sage Creek type vibes, that if you catch El Camino down the stretch or in the playoffs, if they get everything lined up perfectly, they could be a really deep run of a team, because they have that ability to. Zane can get them a big win on the mound. The hitting can lift them that next game. Get them back. Like, so those are my 3 real.
That's
big,
the D3.
The
D3 bracket?
El Camino's a good call there, and right now they're the 8 seed in D3. That's with some teams above them not updating.
And also, like,
but even wherever they are in that, I like El Camino a lot. Like what you just said.
Especially if you have a dog on the mound.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they are the surprising to me, because they could be every game with Zane they win, and then every game without him they lose.
Yeah.
But they are figuring out how to space it out in a way that, like I said, once you get them into that, you got 5 to 7 games. That's all you got to really go full tilt.
Yeah, I think for them the key is just hopefully you don't get in that play-in game where you're in the double elimination bracket. You win your first, you go from there.
Yeah. So, anything else this week? We're closing in on a half hour, and that's usually where I can hear my wife sending the ESP going, get back.
Well, Christian hasn't had a lot of sleep when he asks me how he can help his babies sleep better. He asked me for advice, and
you are the father to 2 beautiful girls and raising them to be happy.
But what was funny was I mentioned everything, and I actually came up with something that you don't have. Which was like, I impressed myself.
I've been a dad for 11 days.
I impressed myself that I remembered that, like, that was 6-7 years ago, and I remembered, and I helped Christian today with baby needs.
Hell yeah! Bodie, any child rearing advice?
Nothing I can give at this point.
No
sleep is good.
No Bodie DeSilva Jr. hidden out there that you've been hiding from the public eye.
We're not close on that point.
No, he wouldn't be able to buy all this swag, dude. Take your time on that one.
Bodie would be the one, just because Bodie's the most quiet, unassuming guy you've ever met, that he would just be like, randomly, you catch him, like, you run into him out in public, and he's like, oh yeah, here's my 5 kids. You're like, what? No, but on a serious note, thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Guys for another week of tuning in.
That was fun.
League play going to be some great games.
League play is going to be great. I just realized now that I told Jack Hafferkamp he could be on the show. Jack, I apologize. I will DM you an apology. Go check out our interview with Jack. He's a better person than all of us combined.
There
on that note, we'll say adios.
Later.
Hit a ball further too.
Yeah, right.
Are you telling him to hit a ball further, or that he can hit?
He
Okay,
very
I thought
much
you were
can.
saying Jack enough of being a good person hit balls further. Talk to you guys later.